Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Progress Report. In this episode, we speak with Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, on the investment portfolio and climate here in Guyana. Minister Singh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Akwan. As I have always said, it's a great pleasure to meet you and to do these sit-downs with you.
Definitely. Minister Singh, let's start off our conversation talking about the most recent visit that we've seen happen here in Guyana. Now, we've seen senior representatives of the Islamic Development Bank come to Guyana, engage in conversations with His Excellency. Talk to us about the specifics of that visit, as well as the visit of the Emir of Qatar, who also visited as well. The specifics of that, what we expect to come out of those visits and so on.
Sure. So, first of all, Shakwan, I want to maybe take a little step back into recent history, contemporary history in Guyana. One of the first major tasks that President Ali took on when he assumed office on the 2nd of August 2020 was to restore Guyana's credibility on the global stage and amongst the global family of nations. Because prior to August 2020, our credibility as a country had been severely damaged by the barefaced attempt to defy the democratic will of the people and the barefaced intent to steal the elections by the APNU-AFC. History will record that that effort by the APNU-AFC to steal the 2020 elections resulted in Guyana being subject to negative commentary by almost all of the major capitals of the world. The Secretary of State of the United States of America made more than one statement on Guyana, decrying the attempt by the APNU-AFC to steal the election, and ultimately had to threaten personal sanctions against those who were involved in this attempt to steal the elections. And it was only the threat of those personal sanctions that eventually resulted in a surrender by the rogue APNU-AFC administration. You had statements by the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom. You have statements by the Foreign Ministry of the French Republic. You had statements by the United Nations Secretary General. You had statements by the Commonwealth Secretary General. You had statements by the OAS Secretary General. You had statements by CARICOM as a collective and several individual heads of government of CARICOM. Because, of course, the elections were internationally observed. And each one of the international observer missions issued a report coming out of there and was shocked and horrified by the refusal of the administration to respect the will of the people. And so Guyana was well on its way in August 2020 to becoming a pariah state, a rogue country. And had the APNU-AFC succeeded in its design to steal the elections of March 2020, Guyana would have become a full-fledged dictatorship. Pariah state would have been ejected by all of the major councils of the world and would have been subject to global sanctions. That is where we were heading as a result of the actions of the criminal and rogue administration of the APNU-AFC prior to August 2020. So when President Ali came into office, he had to restore Guyana's integrity and credibility on the global stage. And he set about this in earnest. You will recall that very shortly after he assumed office, Guyana received a visit by the United States Secretary of State. And we're one of the few small and mid-sized countries around the world to have received within the space of 3 years visits by 2 U.S. Secretaries of State. We've had a visit by Secretary Pompeo, we've had a visit by Secretary Blinken, both within the space of 3 years. We've had a visit by heads of government and heads of state from around the world. You mentioned the President of the Dominican Republic, you mentioned the Emir of Qatar, to name a few. And the President has himself been on state and official visits to many countries around the world. Right now, just within a matter of recent days, His Excellency the President will be receiving an award by a major hemispheric institution for the leadership, by a preeminent hemispheric institution, for the leadership that he is providing, and therefore that Guyana is providing under his leadership on the subject of food security and agriculture. To be contrasted with a situation prior to 2020 when Guyana was ejected from the position as lead spokesperson on agriculture in CARICOM. Since I have known myself, since I have had any consciousness, Guyana has been lead spokesperson on agriculture. Because within CARICOM, within the quasi-cabinet of CARICOM, during the rogue APNU AFC administration, during 2015 to 2020, Guyana suffered the indignity of being relieved of the agriculture portfolio in the CARICOM quasi-cabinet because of the Granger administration's attitude towards agriculture. From the time President Ali resumed office, or assumed office, from the time the People's Progressive Party resumed office and President Ali assumed office, the agriculture portfolio was restored to Guyana. Today, or these days, within a matter of days or hours, President Ali will be receiving a hemispheric award for leadership on food security and agriculture. So I give that preface, or those prefatory remarks, really to set the context for these international visits. They're not one-off visits.
No.
They reflect Guyana's new standing on the world stage. Guyana enjoys more visibility than we have ever enjoyed in the history of our country. We are now regarded as the premier destination for investment by companies around the world. Whether in the Far East, or the Middle East, or Europe, or North America, or Latin America, companies from around the world consider Guyana to be the premier investment destination, an investment hotspot, the place to be. And these are not my words. You've seen publications from around the world using this and similar language to describe Guyana and the Guyanese economy today. So the visits by, whether it be the Emir of Qatar, which we were greatly honored to receive, which is a visit that we were greatly honored to receive, by the President of the Dominican Republic, which we were also greatly honored to receive, or indeed any other head of state or head of government of a friendly country, represent part of the growing recognition of Guyana's importance in global affairs, and in particular the remarkable and exciting economic potential that resides within our country. And when you have a visit by a head of state, such as the Emir of Qatar, His Highness, or His Excellency the President of the Dominican Republic, you have an opportunity to renew and further consolidate bilateral ties. So in the case of the visit by the Emir of Qatar, we signed a number of MOUs. Similarly, with the visit by the President of the Dominican Republic, we signed a number of MOUs. you have an opportunity to renew and further consolidate and strengthen bilateral relations at a government level. And you also have an opportunity to lay the foundation for stronger economic and commercial ties. More companies going back and forth to do business, to invest, to create jobs, and to do business. And so these are incredibly important visits. We welcomed those two particular visits that you mentioned. And we welcome all such visits by heads of government, heads of state, and other dignitaries from friendly countries. We welcome these visits because we are committed to the global economic system. We understand and recognize that we're part of a global economic system. We are part of the global family of nations, the global collective. We are committed to making our contribution to the pressing problems of global concern, whether this be food security, climate security, energy security. We are committed to playing our part in the global collective effort to confront these pressing global problems. And we're committed also to leveraging these relations to derive the greatest possible benefit for the Guyanese people, whether it be through the form of more trade, more investment, more job creation, whichever channel the benefits might flow in and accrue to the ultimate well-being of the Guyanese people. We are committed to leveraging these relations with all friendly countries from around the world to the benefit of the Guyanese people. I might add too that, as you know, Guyana now has been elected to a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council, which is a great privilege, which means now that we have an additional voice in the global stage, and we want to use that voice meaningfully in service to the collective global good. And for us to do so, it's important that we remain closely engaged with countries around the world, to hear from them what the issues of concerns are to them and what their perspectives are on issues, so that we can, having paid keen attention to the perspectives of all of the countries with which we have friendly relations, so that we can represent those views and inform our own position on successive issues as they arise at the UN Security Council. And so we take that responsibility very seriously. But more importantly, or I should say of equal importance, but more particularly, ensuring that the friendly bilateral political relations that we enjoy with so many countries around the world, that those relations are leveraged, particularly and especially for improved economic well-being for the citizens of Guyana, through investment, through trade, and through closer economic ties.